Okay, in today's agenda, we are going to talk about SQL Server Database Administration Introduction under this SQL Server components and versions. And we are going to compare the SQL Server with Oracle. And I'm going to talk about how data stores in SQL Server and different data types in SQL Server 2012. Okay. And firstly, let me talk about SQL Server, different SQL Server components. Like our Oracle, Oracle also we do have applications, Oracle applications and ERP, right? The same way, and we do have in SQL Server reporting services and SQL Server analysis services and SQL Server integration services along with SQL Server database engine. This is RDBMS. We are going to learn about SQL Server database engine, that is RDBMS in the SQL Server 2012. So SQL Server reporting services are mainly meant for the reporting purpose. These are same like our Oracle forms and reports. And SQL Server analysis services are something like our data mining. This is for data mining purpose, the data mining tools. And SQL Server integration services are something like our, compare with Oracle, this is like ETL tool, like extract transaction and loading. And also for running some some maintenance plans in the SQL Server database engine, we do require SQL Server integration services. So in SQL Server 2012 onwards, we do have another role called Business Intelligence DBA, who's working with those who are working with the SQL Server integration services and as well as SQL Server database engine. We do call them as Business Intelligence DBA. So these production DBA and development DBA, we are aware of that in Oracle. The same way, development DBAs are closely working with developers in database engine, and they do have they need some stored procedure, how to write stored procedures and packages. They should have some knowledge in writing the SQL Server transact SQL scripts. And production DBA, we are all aware of that, and I'll let you know what are our roles as a production DBA and what we are going to do, and as a production DBA we'll be learning in this class. Okay, and these are our different components of SQL Server, and all these components are we do manage with the SQL Server Management Studio, and I'm going to show you how SQL Server Management Studio looks like. The SQL Server Management Studio is same like our Oracle Enterprise Manager. I'm going to compare everything, in initial days, I'm going to compare everything with Oracle because we are all Oracle DBAs and it is very easy for us to understand when we compare with Oracle. These are all the two tools which we are mainly going to use in SQL Server 2012. One is SQL Server Management Studio, other one is SQL Server Configuration Manager. Management Studio, as I told you earlier, this is same like our Enterprise Manager, and SQL Server Configuration Manager is something like, we do maintenance tasks using the SQL Server Configuration Manager, like stopping and starting the database engine and database services, and also like listener, we do have TCP/IP protocols. So we do manage TCP/IP protocols from the SQL Server Configuration Manager. So these two are only tools we are going to work in SQL Server 2012. Let me open Management Studio. Let it open, and these are the different versions in SQL Server. I just pasted here from SQL Server 7 onwards, because before that SQL Server and Sybase were only one single database, and as I told you earlier and in yesterday's class, Sybase wanted a heterogeneous database, but Microsoft guys wanted to make a database for platform dependent. They want customers to buy their platform also OS. That is the reason why they both parted. And SQL Server, Microsoft has got the all rights on the SQL Server, and Sybase parted and they created some other database with the same structure almost. So SQL Server 7 onwards, the compatibility, like our Oracle also, we do have compatibility number in the SQL Server. 70 is the compatibility number is 7, and every version of SQL Server, Microsoft used to give a code name. The current version which is running is SQL 14. It is just released. 2012 is widely used now. We call it as Denali. And the compatibility number for SQL Server 2012 is 110, and 2014 is 120. And as I told you, compatibility number is same as in Oracle we do have compatibility, right? Compatibility 11.203, and we used to set the parameter. Same way we do have compatibility number. So 110 is a SQL Server 2012 compatibility number. And next thing is RTM, release to manufacturing. RTM means when you freshly install Oracle, it doesn't have any service pack and any PSU to it, right? 11.2.0 something will be there. So in the same way, when you install SQL Server 2012, there will not be any PSU. I'm calling in a layman words, I'm calling PSU in Oracle when compared to the SQL Server Service Pack 1, Service Pack 2, Service Pack 3, and Service Pack 4. We call PSUs as patch set updates as service packs in SQL Server. So when you install freshly SQL Server 2012 without a service pack, we call it as RTM, release to manufacturing. Are you guys following me? Can you hear me, guys?
Yeah, Pawan. I'm able to hear.
Please interrupt me if you have any questions, please.
Sure.
Yeah. So RTM is release to manufacturing. So currently, in SQL Server, currently SQL Server is in Service Pack 2. 2012 is using Service Pack 2. This is a version number. You can see the version number from the Management Studio actually. So version number, code name, compatibility number, and release to manufacturing and service packs. Are you guys clear with this? I think.
Yeah.
Let me see if it is open or not. Yeah. I'm logging into that. As I told you earlier, SQL Server is having different components, right? Analysis services, reporting services, integration services, and database engine. We belongs to database engine, right? So that is the reason why server type I am selecting as database engine here, and server name is SRV1, and I'm using the Windows authentication. Like in Oracle we don't have a mixed mode. Like actually Oracle we do have only one method called as connecting as DBA or some TNS entry or from the client end we used to connect. But in SQL Server we do have different types of authentication. One is Windows authentication and SQL Server authentication. But in Oracle we would have only SQL Server authentication. Am I correct? I mean Oracle authentication. The same way SQL Server authentication, also Windows authentication. As of now, I'm going to connect as Windows authentication. I'll let you know in the SQL Server security part, I'll let you know clearly what is within Windows authentication and what is SQL Server authentication clearly. We'll talk about it later. Now I'm connecting as authentication, Windows authentication, and connect. I think we should be getting error now because I did not start the services. And another simple logic is, if SQL, while connecting to SQL Server Management Studio, if it is taking long time means we are going to get some error. So as I told you earlier, SQL Server Configuration Manager is for starting and stopping the services. So from the SQL Server services, I'm going to start the SQL Server. We'll be talking about clearly about all these things, in the next classes. So as I told you earlier, this is how you see the version here. You can write a command or you can see the version of the SQL Server. This is how it shows. This is the SQL Server Management Studio. This is how it looks like, and this is the command prompt. New query is the command prompt. And in earlier SQL Server 2000, Senthil, if you remember, we do have to query analyzer and also management studio.
Yeah.
But in SQL Server 2005 onwards, both are integrated. We are calling it as new query analyzer. And if you click on new query, even in you can open the query window in a single, the same SQL Server Management Studio. So everything is integrated here. Even before SQL Server 7, we were calling Management Studio as Enterprise Manager, same as Oracle. But after that, they changed the name as SQL Server Management Studio.
Okay.
And let me go back and compare with Oracle, and I'll get back to again to this Management Studio. Is this screen is clear, or you want me to open it in some other
yeah,
window?
It's clear now. Clear.
Okay. Okay. So I'm going to compare SQL Server with Oracle here. Oracle, we call Oracle database as database, and SQL Server, we call it as instance. Under database engine, let us assume database engine as Oracle Home or Oracle Server. Under database engine, we do have instance. You forget about Oracle instance. Forget about everything. Just, you remember in SQL Server, we are calling the database as instance. And Oracle, we are calling it as database. And under this database, and for now, I'm going to call this database as database engine instead of instance because you'll be getting confusion here. So I'm calling this as database engine and Oracle database as database. In Oracle database, we do have data files. In physical layer, we do have data files and redo log files. In SQL Server database engine, we do have data files, and we are calling redo log files as transaction log files. Transaction log data files. Okay. In Oracle, we have in the logical layer, we have system, sysocs, temporary, and user table spaces. In SQL Server, I am calling table spaces as database. Under database engine, I have databases. Listen it carefully. Under database engine, I have databases. In Oracle, under database, I have table spaces. In SQL Server, under database engine, I have databases. I'm calling table spaces as databases here. Okay? Like system table space, we have master database. I'm calling table spaces as databases. I'm calling database as database engine or instance. So in Oracle, we have table spaces, and in SQL Server, we have databases. I'm showing the equivalent things here. Okay? Transaction log, in redo logs, we have offset. We cannot increase the redo log size in Oracle. So, but in SQL Server, the transaction log can grow unlimited. Transaction log data file can grow unlimited up to operating system specific size. Okay, I'm calling redo log data files as data files I'm not going to compare with, this is not something like in Oracle pluggable databases. But I'm comparing with 12G database, sorry, 11G database. It is easier for us to understand the things if it is 11G database. Okay. Data files with the DBF extension in Oracle, and in SQL Server data files I'm calling as data files itself, but with the MDF extension. Okay. Redo log files, transaction log data files with LDF files. Most of the time we used to call transaction log files or LDF files in SQL Server. But only difference here is redo log files having offset in Oracle, they cannot grow, but in SQL Server they can grow up unlimited. Okay. So like system, I'm calling table spaces as databases in SQL Server. Database as database engine, table spaces as databases. Okay. The only difference here is here databases can act independently, but table spaces cannot act independently. Like I can directly connect to the one database, in second database, third database, fourth database, and fifth database. But in Oracle, I can connect to the data in database, and then this table space data is to pull up the data. So table spaces in SQL Server are more intelligent, I would say, and they are having independent things. Everything they can work as independently. And system, same like in the system, master is having catalog information, and same like SysOps, we do have MSDB, but MSDB is containing replication related data, and then scheduler related data. Like Oracle Scheduler, we do have Oracle Scheduler, like Oracle Scheduler. Like Oracle Scheduler, we have SQL Server Agent. Oracle Scheduler, we do have SQL Server Agent. You can see it here. As I told you, we do have master, model, MSDB, and temporary database. And this is user database, like system table space, SysOps table space, temporary table space, and test. Any questions, guys? Please let me know. Please interrupt me if you have any questions or any confusion.
No, from my side.
Okay.
One.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. So here master database, as I told you, it is something intelligent than table spaces, and also these transaction logs, redo logs, are specific to the database, not specific to the specific to the each database here. Like Oracle, if you as a layman words, if you imagine system table space is having different redo log and data file, and SysOps having different redo log file and data file, and temp is having different redo log and data file, and user table space is having different redo log and data file, not in database level, in system and table space level. If you imagine in that way, in the same way, here in SQL Server database engine, in SQL Server database, each database is having own data files and transaction log files. Own data files and transaction log files. So if you want to create any database, you need one data file and transaction log file. Okay. So blocks are same. In the logical layer, blocks are same. Blocks, we call it as pages here. And extents are also there. Extent, we call it as, extents only. But here no segments concept in SQL Server. And there is no control file concept, there is no P file concept. Why there is no control file concept means, every database, primary, data file, which is having a data file, as I told you, every database is having a data files. So first data file which you are adding to the every database, in the data file header, all information related to that particular database will be there. So when you are restoring, if you restore first data file in the SQL Server, it will expect, it will show everything related to the database. And then, okay, I had got a question here, from Satish. Yeah, Satish, blocks and pages are same, but pages size is 8 kilobytes here. Block is the a minimum storage unit in Oracle. The same way, in the SQL Server, page is a minimum storage unit, and its size is 8 kilobytes. And contiguous 8 pages, we call it as extent. Yes, that is correct. 8K standard, yeah. Yeah, I was telling you about transaction logs and data files. Yeah, control file thing I was talking about. So there is no control file concept because every database is having data file, and first data file which you are adding, we are calling it as primary data file. And this primary data file is having, this header is having control file information. So whenever you are trying to restore database, if you first restore primary data file, it will show you in the screen that what all are data files and log files it is expecting, or RK logs it is expecting. It will show it in the screen. So primary data file is very important. This primary data file is having data as well as the control file information, same as Oracle. And there is no automatic archiving in SQL Server. So in Oracle, archiver is to archive the data from, flush the data from redo logs, and we do have RK logs. If the database is in RK log mode, automatically archives will come to RK log destination. But in SQL Server, we call RK log mode as full recovery model. We call RK log mode as full recovery model. No RK log mode, we call it as simple recovery model. So in simple recovery model, transaction log will be in circular fashion, will be overwriting. But if it is in full recovery model, you need to manually dump the RK logs. So how you do it? Like in RMan, what RMan will do in Oracle? Whatever RK logs came out from the database, we used to take the backup. But in SQL Server, from the redo log, we are calling a redo log as LDF file here, or transaction log data file. From the transaction log data file, I am taking backup as transaction log backup file. I'm calling RK log as transaction log backup file. If you see here, we are calling transaction log data file, redo log as transaction log data file, LDF file, and RK logs we are calling as transaction log backup files. These files extension is .trn, like .arc. These files extension is .trn. So transaction log data files, I am dumping it as transaction log trn files, transaction log backup files, and the extension is trn file. And if you are not dumping these RK logs, these transaction logs, What will happen in Oracle if you are, if your archaeolog destination fills up 100%? What will happen? Database is going to hang, right? In the same way, LDF files, redo log files, LDF file become huge and your drive become 100%. That particular database going to hang, which means in Oracle, generally what happens in Oracle, entire database will become hang. Will not be able to connect to the entire database. It will throw you archiver error. But in SQL Server, beautiful thing is only that particular database will go to suspect mode. We call it as suspect mode. So you can access other databases, but if all other databases, but only this test database will go to suspect mode. Rest of the functionality is same, intact. So archaeologs, transaction log files. Any questions, guys? Are you clear with this?
Yeah.
And same like SQL, we used to interact in Oracle with the SQL and PL/SQL. The same way, in SQL Server, we have transact SQL. We call it as TSQL, and it is meeting all ANSI SQL standards. It is certified by the ANSI SQL. It is meeting the all ANSI SQL like CL/SQL, PL/SQL, transact SQL also, meeting the ANSI SQL standards. Queries are almost 90% same which you are writing, and the beautiful thing in SQL Server is you no need to write any query. Let me show you one thing here. If I want to take the backup, how you are taking the backup in Oracle? You need to write a RMAN query or something else, or hard backup. You need to take the hard backup things. You need to write a shell script to copy everything. But in SQL Server, if I go to tasks and backup, there is an option, script. If I say script action to new window, it will automatically come up. No need to worry about any script. It will automatically come up. And the only thing you need to check it out is in which database you are running this query. Is be careful whenever you are running a SQL query or SQL statement. Please check in this panel to which database it has connected. It is very important. If you are running a delete statement and you are not doing, you are not checking this one, it will go to by default master or something else. Instead, you can do one thing. You can use command and database name. Use test or use TempDB, use model for running the queries. If you say use command, even though something is here, it will automatically, when you're executing, it will automatically go to this query is what specifying use test. So it will go to test. It's always a good habit to use, this use statement and then database name. And again, one more important thing is in SQL Server Management Studio, in this query window, whatever you are running is auto commit. If you run an insert statement, it will automatically commit. So be careful. This is the default behavior. Even we can change that behavior, but it is not recommended by the Microsoft. So it is a standard that everything whatever you are running is auto commit. So be careful about that. And you can open different windows here, different new query windows. You can toggle with them. And if you want to know, if I'm going to write, suppose if I'm going to write some other statement here, and even I can run only this particular statement by selecting this one. I can run this particular statement by selecting this one. How you run this one? You select this one, and here you see execute command or run F5. And you have got some doubt, and you want to check the syntax. What you need to do? You need to select this one, run this tick mark. It will check syntax for you. It will not recommend you the syntax, but it will show you if it is there in error. It is showing command completed successfully, which means there is no syntax error. Let me make a syntax mistake here and run this one. See. Instead of, disk, I gave some DI something and execute and try to parse. We call it as parse, Control F5. Don't run any shortcuts, always execute this. I parsed it, it is showing some syntax error. So unlike Oracle, you have a very good, tool called Management Studio, where in which you have a GUI and you can see everything here, and it's a GUI and you can do it with the right click, and you can run anything. And if you don't know any query, if you have a doubt, as I told you earlier, try for a script and don't execute it. Just I want to do the restore. Just click on database and go for script. Select some database here and go for script. It will give this beautiful restore script for you. So no need to worry about anything here. And as I told you earlier, the SQL Server is having its own scheduler. We call scheduler, Oracle scheduler is as SQL Server agent. So through SQL Server agent, you can run the jobs. So same like you are scheduling in the cron tab or scheduling a scheduler, you can scheduler, in the SQL Server agent, you can run backup jobs. Even SQL Server or OS level scripting also you can schedule in this SQL Server agent. So all jobs will be running through SQL Server agent in SQL Server Management Studio in SQL Server. So this is all about SQL Server Management Studio. We'll be talking more about this later. And also one more thing is, when it comes to the users in Oracle, we have two level security. I would say two level security. One is database level, and other one is object level. Like I am connected to database as connects SQL plus DBA, and I am connecting to it to the object, and in the object level I am giving the privileges or permissions. But in SQL Server, you do have database engine security, and then database security, and then object level. So I'm calling database as database engine here. Exact term is not database engine. If I say instance, you guys will get confused with that. That is the reason why I'm calling it as database engine here. You can create multiple data instances under database engine. Database engine is just like Oracle Home in Oracle. And we call database as instance in SQL Server. But I'm not using the term instance. That is the reason why in the first day if I use the same term, you guys will get confused. Database engine, and under database engine, you have database and then object. So we call here the database as database user in Oracle. Here we call it as logins. Here we call it as logins. Under database, we have users, and object we used to give same privileges and roles are same. So in SQL Server, we have three-level security: login, user, and roles. Here we have user and then privileges. So when you connect to the database engine, you have a login. With that login, you can log into the master database or modal database or MSDB or temp or user. Yeah, SA is like, SA is a login. SA is a login, Satish. SA is a login, same like our SysDBA. That is correct, Satish. Our sys, using the sys, we used to connect database. In the same way, using SA, This is the super user, right? Same way we have SA. Using that login, you can connect to the master, model, MSDB, temp, or user. Any database you can connect, providing you should have a permission, which we call mapping. You should have a mapping to the all databases in order to connect to the database. That mapping is the authentication. So if I say Pawan is a login and DB1 is there and DB2 is there and DB3 is there. If I create a login, initially it will ask for the reference database for that login, mapped database. Initially I connected the database, I gave the mapping as DB1. Later, Pawan wanted to connect to the DB2 and DB3 also. He cannot, until unless you map this Pawan to DB2 and DB3. But in Oracle, only one user is there. If you want to connect to any table space, you can connect. You can do anything. But in SQL Server, it's not going to work out. You should have database engine instance level permission and database level, user authentication. 2 authentications and then object level roles and our privileges you should have. And we are going to talk more about this, security about all these things in security section. Don't worry about all this. I'm going to give you a clear picture on these logins and users and these roles and privileges. Are you clear?
Yes, sir.
That is correct. That will be stored in the master database. Satish, mapping information, everything will be stored in the master database. Okay. As I told you earlier, each database is having data files. It is having data file 1 and DB2, DB3 is having data file and the data file. See, if I want to create another data file, Satish has a question here, similar to the system table space, but has the details of all the databases. Yeah, I'm going to talk about all these databases part in next section, Satish. I'm going to talk very clearly about these all databases. Don't worry about that. I'm going to tell you what is the roles of this master, model, MSDB, and everything I'm going to talk. Don't worry. This model database, something like if you want to create a new database, it will be same as this model database. If I suppose I'm going to create a new database, it will give same model, same data file size, same log file size. Everything will be same as model. If you do any changes in model, upcoming database is something like a template in Oracle. That is correct. That is correct, Satish. Yeah. That is the role of model. I'm going to talk about more about the database in the next section. This is an introductory demo class. That is the reason why I'm not going to talk more about this. I want you guys to familiar with SQL Server terms, technical terms and all, because that is the reason why I'm comparing with Oracle here. Okay, and I'm telling you differences between Oracle and SQL Server also. So in database, I can create multiple data files, but I'm going to call only first data file with the MDF extension, and next data file I'm going to store it as .ndf. But in Oracle, everything you are going to save it as store it as .dbf. In Oracle, everything is .dbf. Every data file you call it as .dbf. But here, since this is a primary data file and it is having the every information, control information about this data file, this database, I'm calling it as MDF file, primary data file. I would say it's a primary data file. It is having the information regarding the database, what are all data files it is having, what is the checkpoint number, what is the LSN number, everything related to the database will be stored in this MDF file. And also whatever data you are inserting in the database, that can also be stored in MDF file. You can have at least one data file to the database. If you want to add, for some reason, you want to add another NDF file, another data file. That file, we are going to store it as .ndf. It is simply having the database data information only. Now only data information, nothing other than that. Only data information, some header will be there for the sanity check. So this sanity check will happen at the time of restoring or restoring the database. Like control file sanity check in our Oracle, the same way it will do the sanity check, and it will check all NDF files and log files what are all there in the database, which will check MDF files with the MDF file header. Lazy writer will check everything. We call, there is no log writer, there is no log writer and data writer in this SQL Server. We have only lazy writer. We have only lazy writer here. Frankly telling you, no need to worry about the internal architecture. No need to worry about the internal architecture of the SQL Server, because you are nowhere related to the internal architecture. Everything is in GUI, and even if you go to any SQL Microsoft certification classes, they are not going to teach you about internal architecture. No need to worry about internal architecture, but I'll tell you what are internal things are there in SQL Server, like our SGA, PZA. You'll be having it out. Yesterday, one student asked me what are all equivalent things for the SGA and PZA. So we do have similar kind of things in. I'll be talking about more about these in the next classes. But no need to worry about all these things. Like we do have protocol layer just like our listener, and we have a query executor, command parser, and optimizer. We call it as relational engine actually. And the storage engine, we do have transaction manager, access methods, and buffer pool. We do have buffer manager, and under it data cache and plan cache like library cache. And data cache is data cache is there, and buffer pool is there. Everything is there, but you no need to, when it comes to the real time, you no need to worry about setting the parameters for all these things. All that you need to do is just change the buffer pool value. I'll show you. All that you need to do is the memory. Just change the this memory. That's it. All that you need to do is changing this one. It will automatically tune itself. It will automatically tune itself. Until unless you run into severe performance issues, even you no need to connect to the go to the SQL Server in Microsoft. And when it compares with Oracle, I believe Oracle per core they charge for license 50,000 USD. If I am not wrong, please correct me. In Oracle. But in SQL Server, Microsoft charges per core 27,000 USD, almost half the price. And also, that is correct, Satish, in pages. And I'm telling you, no need to worry about every internal thing, but I'll teach you, I'll take you through all those internal things, but no need to worry about all those things in real time. All that you need to do is increase the memory. Okay? And Oracle, you need to tune the parameters. There is no P file in the SQL Server, and no need to tune anything. Just change the parameter value and change, look after the data files, log files, and then, security, all these things. And backups, restores, cloning, all these things. So SQL Server is more cheaper than Oracle when it comes to this licensing, 27K. And in the next class, I'm going to talk about what are different kinds of licenses we have in SQL Server, and what are charges and per core. I'll be talking about more about them in the next class. and we call in Oracle we're calling it as cloud, right? Same way we call SQL Server cloud as Azure. But we're not going to cover any Azure things in this course. But at the end of this course, I'm going to tell you briefly about the Azure. Because for teaching you Azure, I need an Azure account, which is more costlier. Cloud account, I would say. Cloud, we call it as Azure in SQL Server. But I have some screenshots. I'll take you all through all those things. So same like data guard. Another thing is in high availability situation, when it compared with Oracle, same like RAC, we do have clustering. Along with clustering, we do have always on. We call it always on high availability solutions, but not same as RAC, but it's somehow meeting near to the RAC. And same like data guard, we have log shipping. SQL Server log shipping. And another thing is same like streams and replication, like Oracle Golden Gate. We do have replication here. And we were calling always on in previous editions. We are calling always on as. That is correct, Sadish. It is a warm standby. You can have always on, always on. You can have 3 standbys. You can open it as read only, real time apply. Same like our 11G real time apply. You can open. You can run some reports there, and you can have. It will be having a failover. Same like our data guard, but there are some differences between log shipping and always on. I'll take you through all those things through you guys regarding always on and log shipping in advanced classes. Okay. Same like data guard, we have log shipping here. Same like Golden Gate and streams, we have replication here. Different types of replications are there, and we were calling always on in previous editions as mirroring. Mirroring is now deprecated in 2012. We are calling it as always on. In 2014, it is not at all there, and we are calling it as always on. It's replaced by the always on. These are different high availability solutions in SQL Server. And there is no RMAN kind of thing in SQL Server. We do have some some third-party tools called Lightspeed, which compression ratio is almost 70% of the actual data file. And Lightspeed, interface is same like our, Management Studio in SQL Server. Lightspeed is having a very user-friendly interface. I don't have Lightspeed software, but I can show you the screenshots in the later classes at the time of backup and restore. I'll show you Lightspeed. It's same like RMAN in SQL Server, but it's a third party. I think it's owned by the Dell. Like Lightspeed, we do have some other third-party tools, but Lightspeed is a very good tool among all those things, all those tools. So another confusion here is we don't call recovery in Oracle recovery. We call recovery, right? Well, recovering, we call it as recovery, but in SQL Server we call it as restore. Don't get confused here. I'll tell you what is this. In Oracle, how you are restoring and recovering things? You'll be taking the backup using RMAN, and using the RMAN will be storing it in its own binary files. So from that RMAN backup, yes, you will be restoring it. And then recover. But in case of hard backup, how you are doing it in Oracle? Just place the hard backup in your folder or directory, and then recover. In the same way in SQL Server, just place your backup in your required folder and then you call recover as restore. Don't get confused here. The reason why, and the same reason, same, avoid the confusion. I kept, in the course curriculum, recovery scenarios I kept instead of restore scenarios. The reason why we are calling RK-log mode, if you remember I told you RK-log mode, what we are calling? RK-log mode, full recovery. Full recovery model. And simple no RK-log. So here recovery model means not the point in time recovery model, something else. Recovery model means full simple, no archive or no archive. We do have some other modes. I'll talk about those modes, the different modes later. I don't want to make it complicated here. That is the reason I'm talking about only full and simple recovery model. So we are calling RK-log mode as recovery models. So full recovery model and simple. What recovery we call it as? Restore. So if somebody is asking you what are the different recovery models in SQL Server, what you are going to answer? Full, simple. And if somebody is going to ask you what are the different restore scenarios in SQL Server, point in time recovery, same data file and page, same like you are doing in Oracle. We don't have SCN based recovery here, but we do have some other things like point in time and full database using the differential backup. We used to restore. These all things are there, but there is no SCN based recovery here. Like how you are doing it for in RMAN we are doing it SCN based, right? There is no different that kind of thing in SQL Server. But managing the backups and restore are very easy in SQL Server. A restore point is there. We call it as, we do have restore point. We call it as snapshots here. We call them as snapshots.